Hey everyone, I'd like to welcome you to episode 4 of Talk is Sheep Zoomcast. Today we're going to be talking about bighorns in the desert, and we're going to be focusing on Mexico. So Steve and I are really excited to welcome some really big names with bighorns in Mexico, and some great work that's being done on the conservation side. So I'm going to start off. We're really happy today to have Clay Brewer on board today. Clay is with the Wild Sheep Foundation. He's their conservation director, and he's their bighorn sheep program leader. So Clay, you don't need much of an introduction in the wild sheep conservation circles, but welcome on the Zoomcast. We're really excited to have you, Clay.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Excited about it myself.
No, fantastic. And out of Mexico, we're really excited to have Emilio Rangel. Emilio is the chair of the Mexico Council for the Conservation and Sustainability of Desert Bighorn Sheep. And Emilio is also the owner of, with his family, of the Palmosa Ranch, and I get another great reputation in the industry about bighorns and conservation. And so we're really excited to have you on board, Emilio. Thanks for making the call today.
Well, thank you very much for inviting us.
Fantastic. And Jacob Ortiz with the ARTEE family, again down in Mexico. Jacob's with, he as well serves on the Mexico Council. And Jacob's also, his family, they're the owner of Alamo Ranch, another, fantastic name in conservation. There's some fantastic work being done at Alamo, and really excited today to talk about that and about what's being done there. There's been a lot of great work done in Mexico, and I think Mexico's a real success story. So welcome to you, all three of you gentlemen, and thanks for tuning in. So.
Yeah.
I think what we'll do is we'll just start off with you, Clay. You've been in the bighorn circles for literally 4 decades, I think, with your conservation work in Texas. Do you mind just starting from your early days and talking through your conservation work and what you've done in the past with bighorns, Clay?
Sure. I did several wildlife jobs, but eventually went to work for Texas Parks and Wildlife Department, and spent a good part of my career along the border between Texas and Mexico. And so I worked with landowners. We shared a resource along the river. And so I ran 2 wildlife management areas in the Trans-Pecos region of Texas, Elephant Mountain and Sierra Diablo wildlife management areas. Eventually became the mule deer, pronghorn, bighorn sheep guy for Texas Parks and Wildlife. And then stepped into some leadership roles after that were not near as exciting as the bighorn work. I actually did a 1.5-year stint as the wildlife director for Texas Parks and Wildlife. So all of the experience I had in the early years, it all led up to it made me a better sheep biologist in the long run. And so but that was definitely the most exciting part of my career, and has been. I retired from Texas Parks and Wildlife in 2016, and went to work. I quit on a Friday and started to work for Wild Sheep Foundation on Monday, and so I am in charge of the bighorn program for the Wild Sheep Foundation.
That's fantastic, Clay. So maybe if you want to talk a little bit about what you're doing with the Wild Sheep Foundation, and I know there's the Mexico Council as well. So maybe introduce us a little bit to that, and then maybe you can, do a proper introduction of Emilio and Jacob, how they fit in on the council and what that looks like.
Absolutely. I was telling you that I spent a good part of my career along the border. I have a really good understanding about the culture and how things work or should work. And I have to admit, it always bothered me. A lot of things bothered me about it. We within Texas Parks and Wildlife, we tried for decades to work together. We actually, some of our brood stock actually came from, our bighorn sheep in Texas were extirpated by about 1960. And in the early years, we actually acquired 15 desert bighorn sheep from Mexico. So we actually have genetics from Mexico within our current sheep population. And so but that was really about it. We didn't collaborate much, and I always felt like we should have. And when I was the Bighorn sheep guy, I tried to get some things going, and just we would do okay, but not at the level I thought it should be. And so when I went to work for the Wild Sheep Foundation, I felt like there was a tremendous opportunity to do that and to do some great things for the resource in Mexico, and not just Bighorn sheep, but wildlife in general. Something has always been missing, and in the case of these guys you see on the screen and others, to me it was a leadership issue. It may be a lack of commitment on this side of the river as well. But one thing was pretty clear. Anybody that's been to Mexico one time seems to be an expert on what occurs in Mexico. And to me, that was one of the biggest problems. Instead of letting these guys make their own decisions about what was important there, we always did that for them. And so that's the biggest difference. I saw this need, and Emilio and I talked, and Jacob and I visited. Jacob came to see me. I first met him in San Antonio, Texas, at a wedding, and we started talking about things then. But Emilio and I got to know each other, and I actually visited Emilio's ranch, and we talked about many things down there. And so it led to an idea. I had the right players, the right people at the table. And so I felt like it was a tremendous opportunity to do something that no one has ever been successful at. And so we put this thing together and actually worked on a charter this started back in 2018. And the Wild Sheep Foundation Board of Directors actually approved the charter. And the purpose of this, I call it the Mexico Council. It's a lot shorter. It does mean something, that title, the Mexico Council for the Conservation and Sustainability of Desert Bighorn Sheep. That title is important for a number of reasons, and these guys can touch on that. But we formed this Mexico Council for 5 reasons: to develop strategies for restoring and conserving free-ranging desert bighorn sheep and their habitat within Mexico. And I do emphasize free-ranging. You hear a lot about high fences and those sorts of things, and there's certainly plenty of operations, and lots of folks have been successful with that there. But Wild Sheep Foundation wanted to emphasize the free-ranging part of it, and that's led to many things. A lot of landowners are releasing sheep, and I always felt like they could do better in releasing sheep into the wild and free-ranging sheep than they could with operations behind high fence. And so we have many landowners coming to the table that are actually doing that now. And so anyway, that was the first purpose. Others, to identify the challenges, business, both conservation and business challenges. These guys are excellent business people as well, in addition to being tremendous resource guys. And you'll be shocked when you hear their history, what these guys, their education, and what these guys have done. Emilio serves on the board of directors, Wild Sheep Foundation board, and so anyway, just they have the business minds to go along with it. I don't have that, they do, and so it's a really good thing. But then more important is to develop solutions for those challenges. We wanted to improve communications between stakeholders. More important, we wanted this council to serve as the guiding force to help guide decisions of the Wild Sheep Foundation Board of Directors, and that has paid dividends since 2018. When the Board of Directors, Wild Sheep Foundation Board, has to make a tough decision, they would discuss it, and then a decision was made, and now the first thing they do is they come to the council, and then the council provides feedback before that decision is made. So it's paid tremendous dividends. And so anyway, that's kind of the background behind how the council was formed, and so it's been running about 2 years. We have and continue to tackle tough issues. We're looking at some of the toughest issues there in Mexico. There's no permanent source of funding for wildlife, like Pittman Robertson funds in the U.S. These guys, the landowners that you see who are on this council, they do this work themselves and they pay for it out of their own pocket. And so the money that they generate off of hunts funds their program. I guess I should mention, we have representatives from each. There are 5. Historically, there were 6 states with wild sheep in Mexico, and so we have Baja California does not hunt, and so we don't have a representative from that state. But the others, just real quick, Emilio is the chair, as you stated earlier. Alejandro Espinosa from CEMEX. He's also, those 2 guys represent Coahuila. Sergio Jimenez from Baja California Sur. And then we have 2 guys from Chihuahua. Jose Vaina Jr., you guys may have met him at the sheep show. He's there every year. And from Texas, they're not 30 miles across the border from us. And so anyway, really doing some great work there. But they're the two. And then Ernesto Villalobos from he represents Chihuahua. And then in Sonora, Javier Artee, and I want Jacob to talk a little bit about his dad, the history about his father. He's really interesting stuff, the very first outfitter in Texas. And so, and I know Emilio has known him for a long time as well, but Jacob represents, is one of the representatives from Sonora, Nayo Balderrama. He's typically at the sheep show. And then Rene Hernandez from Nuevo Leon. So those are the representatives on the council. Great guys, all of them, good business guys, good resource guys, and have been doing it for a long time. And they know how to raise sheep, and they know how to release them into the wild and be successful. And so just a great bunch of guys. Can I go in? Is it okay if I just briefly go into some of the issues that these guys face, and then we can go into talking to these guys and you can get some feedback. But it's interesting to note that and maybe I should do, you know what, I'll hold that for the introductions. But when it comes to sheep, some of the very first documented evidence was from Coronado in the 1500s, of Bighorn sheep. You can read it in the journals. Later on, there was a priest in the 1700s that described Bighorn sheep, and I want Jacob to touch on that in a minute, because that occurred on Sierra El Alamo, and so some really neat history of that property. So Jacob can talk about that as well. But it's Bighorn sheep are an important part of the culture in Mexico. Their story is much like the U.S. By the 1800s, they were suffering from disease, the things that came along with civilization, and not much different. Some populations were extirpated and completely extirpated, or became extinct, and so they've worked and really have been successful in restoring sheep. Bighorn sheep now occur in every state where they were historically. And so they have brought them back from extinction. So they've been very successful with that. And so do you want me to introduce these guys, or do you want to do it? How do you want me to do this?
Yeah, you bet, Clay. Just jump right into it. I think you can do a much better introduction than I can with these gentlemen, for sure.
Okay. Well, Emilio, like I say, he's been involved in this from the beginning, and he always has great ideas, and he's my counselor as well. He keeps me from jumping off the wrong cliff from time to time. If something happens down there, he's the first guy I call, because he'll typically, and I get excited and I want to jump on something, and he'll say, slow down. This is no one's going to die here. Let's make sure we think this through. So he's an excellent counselor for me, and a good friend, and I appreciate him very much. And the board, the Wild Sheep Foundation, his board is so lucky to have him serve. Such a good man, and his family is outstanding, and his son is also a business partner, real good man as well. But they're they're smart people. They understand the resource. Emilio got his master's in wildlife at Texas Tech University. And I don't know if you knew that, but he actually worked for Ducks Unlimited for a while and did other things. So he's been around the block. He understands the art and science of wildlife management and what it means and all the moving parts. So he's just, for me personally, I don't think I could run this thing properly without him, without his guidance. And so great guy. They run, as you said earlier, La Palmosa Ranch. Really neat story about wildlife restoration, one that needs to be told. It's one that needs to be told in Mexico. And that's one of the projects that we have going. We actually have a film project going that we're working on that is intended to educate some of the important government people about the importance and the role of hunting with bighorn sheep in Mexico. So we have big plans, and these guys have some of the connections to reach government at the highest levels, and so that's important too. So and Emilio, if I left anything out, I'm sorry, and you can jump in here in a minute, and then there's Jacob sitting there. I think all of those sheep heads behind him, they're poached. He stole those from his own property. No, Jacob is a good guy. You know, he's got he has a bunch of brothers, and they're all lawyers, and he's the engineer of the family. And Jacob's another one who has provided excellent guidance to me as well. He's been a good friend and has a great family. They all work together. Everyone plays a role in their operation at Sierra Alamo. It's a top-notch operation, and I'll let Jacob tell you about it. They're a lot of fun. I enjoy it, and I hate this COVID thing because I don't get to see my friends in Mexico. I don't get to go down there, and I try to go as much as I can. They're just great guys. So Jacob, I'll let you whatever I missed. He's been doing it a long time as well, and he and his brothers, his dad. He needs to talk about his dad, how long he's been doing it as well. And I think Emilio and Jacob's dad have been friends for years as well. And so anyway, I hope I've answered your question.
Yeah, absolutely, Clay. That's fantastic, and just a great introduction to both gentlemen. And let's just jump off here with Emilio. Emilio, first of all, I have to echo Clay's comments there. You know, working with you on the board of directors of the foundation, I've gotten to know you a lot better and just respect all the work that you do and see how busy you are and how involved you are. But I also know your things go well beyond wild sheep, that you've got your hands in a lot of different piles and doing a lot of work. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but you're also in the real estate business as well. Is that correct? Or just, you're on mute there, Emilio, so I'll have to turn that off.
Okay, yes, thank you. Yes, we are in real estate. My father, he started the business in real estate in the 50s, and now I'm passing it to my son, and so it will be the third generation from that. And the same thing with the ranch. We had this ranch, La Palmosa, since 1963. It's almost 60 years ago. And it's in the heart of Coahuila, where the historical habitat for desert bighorn has been known for so many years. As a matter of fact, I have a quote from some journal from the University of Arizona. They did some study and they found out that the last desert bighorns they saw in Coahuila, that was in 1979. And the problem in Coahuila and Nuevo León, they are neighbors. There's two states. Nuevo León is compared with Coahuila, is a fairly small state. However, we have a population of almost 5 million people, and we consume a lot of baby goat. We call it cabrito. That is kind of a problem for desert bighorn because of disease, as you know. And in Mexico, we have two types of lands, which is ejido land and private land. Both are private, I should say. But the ejido is a commune system where several families live out of that piece of land. Usually is very large piece of land, however, it's a private too. However, in most of the ejidos in the state of Coahuila, they raise goats. We're talking about the Chihuahuan Desert here. And this lack of water and conditions are very poor, and so they keep these goats, and they don't take, how should I say, sanitary precautions with these goats. Sometimes they roam free and they get lost and they end up somewhere else. And that's what happened in the 60s and 70s. All these ejidos, they got from federal programs from the government goats for them to raise. And that led to the extirpation, or most of the populations of desert bighorns were wiped out due to disease. As you know, when they get in touch with domestic sheep and goats, well, they usually get sick, they get pneumonia, and that's what happened because 51% of the whole country of Mexico is ejido. And in the Chihuahuan Desert is more than 60, I should say 65% is under ejido, and they all have goats. So that's one of the tough issues, and that's what we are working with them. We're trying to teach them that there are so many other ways to do living out of the desert, and wildlife in a sustainable way is a way for them to make a living. So we're working on that too. So it's been so many years, in 63, that we start working in the ranch, and probably in the late 80s, we took out all the cattle out, and we left the ranch. It's about 100,000 acres, a little bit more than that. And we left the whole place for wildlife, for flora and fauna. And in 2000, 2003, we brought the first desert bighorns from Tiburon Island back to the state, back to Coahuila, back to La Palmosa. And we've been working for almost now 20 years with these populations. There were two introductions. One was 69. We had a reserve area, as Clay mentioned it. First, we had a large enclosure where we could keep predators, and we could take care of them for 2-3 years. And then the second year, we brought another 40-50. So we started with probably 100, I should say 20, 130 original animals. That's about 20 years ago. And then we took off the area, this reserve area, we call it the incubator, and let them roam free in the mountains. And since then, we've been working a lot with water. It's no water, it's pretty much none in a natural way. It's a little tiny spring that sometimes goes dry too often. And so we've been working on some watershed catchments, where we have some how do you say, big tanks where we keep some of the water, and then we start drilling wells, and from there a lot of miles and miles and miles of black pipe to bring water to the edge of the mountains and to the canyons, and now we have pretty much water all over the place. And so they are doing very well, and now we have a population, I should say, I don't know, probably around 600, 700 animals roaming free.
That's amazing.
So that's how it's now, after 20 years of hard work and working with them.
That's such a fantastic story, Emilio. So with that, Emilio, you mentioned the disease issue in goats. Are you guys worried about that with your ranch in your area? Is there goats in the area? Is that a risk? Is there a chance of a disease event with you guys? Or I think that being free range, that's the major concern, I would imagine. So is that something you guys have to worry about there?
Yes, that's one of the main concerns. Of course, we have the ejidos very far away from our property, and it's also very large, and they are down in the valley. That's where these ejidos and these populations, and that is one of our main projects, working with them. All the people that work with us, that they serve as guides and they come from the ejidos, from the neighbors, ejidos. And after being serving as a guide for the past, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 years, well, they know and they realize that sustainable harvest of wildlife can be more profitable than a bunch of goats. And they are taking that back to the ejido. And again, is our main challenge and our main project, working with the ejidos, that they have the potential to have wildlife. Of course, mule deer, and there are some whitetail, not that much, because again, we are in the desert, even though it's the subspecies Mickeywanense species down in the valley, and the Carmen Mountains up in the mountain, and they are very well adapted to the desert. However, the main two species is the desert bighorns, of course, mule deer, and I failed to mention, we also have a program we started with the New Mexico Wildlife Department, and we got some pronghorns. Pronghorns, we used to have pronghorns all the way down to Querétaro. I should say probably more than half of Mexico had pronghorns 400 years ago. And it is very well documented and by the Spaniards that there were pronghorns. But those that were wiped out mainly by poaching. At night, they would go out and kill them at night to provide meat to some groups. And they were wiped out in the 50s. I have a report from the state government that the last pronghorns they saw in Coahuila, that was in 1954 or 55. And we got a group of about, I don't remember the number, but I believe it was about 60. And that was also about 15, 18 years ago. And they are doing very well. We have a population probably over 300, 250, 300, 250. And they are doing very well. So we have introduced what the species that historically live in that area. So now we have the pronghorn too. And again, just to finish my comment, we are working, it's our first and main project, working with the ejidos and teach them and show them how sustainable harvest of wildlife can be more profitable. and it can be better for the wildlife, and because if you want to harvest few animals, you have to take care of the habitat. You have to take care of the rest of the population. We harvest 3 or 4% of the whole population. That means if we take 3 rams out of that population, we have to keep up with 97 in the best health possible, in the best habitat possible. So we take care of the flora and fauna for us to be able to harvest that 3%. And even is a small take at 3% is more profitable than overgrazing with goats, even with cows. Even though the land there, the Chihuahuan Desert is not the most viable land for cows. However, it is for goats. And so that's what we're doing pretty much.
That's an amazing success story, Emilio. So you're saying there's 600 now. Is that approaching the carrying capacity of your property, or do you see there's more opportunity for growth there, or is that kind of the best you can do right now? It sounds like obviously a very healthy herd, but is there more opportunity?
Well, yes, we're working we have 2 neighbors. One of the neighbors, he has over 200,000 acres, and one of the neighbors, the other neighbor, he has another probably 90,000 acres. And we're working with them. We already translocate some of these desert bighorns to their properties. So there is a lot of land to grow, and with the private. Our neighbors, they do take care of the land. They do have cattle. One of them had goats, and he took the goats out about probably 4 or 5 years ago. And we showed them what we had, and we explained him how it's a big threat for the population of desert bighorns to have so close the goats. And so he took out the goats, and now they're working with us, and they're working with the desert bighorn population. So in total, we'll end up with probably close to 400,000 acres. And I want to mention, remember that in Mexico, 100% of the land is private. We do not have public land like you do in Canada, like in the States, where you can hunt, or where the federal or state government takes care of this wildlife population. And here in Mexico, everything is under private land. So it's a burden, it's a big load we have to carry. So conservation is done, and Jacobo, he can tell you about it a lot. And of course, Clay can tell you how most of the, well, not most, all of the efforts here in Mexico is done by private individuals. Otherwise, we don't get any funding from the government, and we don't get any money from the state or federal government.
Yes. So the Mexico Council, it consists exclusively of the landowners. There's no government representation there. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah. The whole idea was to have some of the people involved in each state, those people who've been success in the state. So we could be all together, and we could see where the direction where we want to go. And one of the main programs we have, and I would like Clay to explain it better, is about the CITES. CITES, and of course, they start working with desert bighorns in Mexico 30, 40 years ago. But now, 20, 30 years later, we have a population, like Clay mentioned earlier, in every single state where we used to have. When the decided people start working with Bighorns, mainly Baja, both Baja Sur, Baja Norte, and Sonora, they were the only ones with in populations. Jacobo can tell you better numbers, but populations were very low. Now we have in both Baja Norte, Baja Sur, in Sonora, Coahuila, Nuevo León, and in the same Chihuahuan Desert area of Zacatecas that borders Coahuila. And our populations are way several times more than what used to be 20 years ago. So CITES is an issue. We're working on it as a country.
Yes, we've done several things. The president actually formed you guys may remember, it was a conservation committee that Ryan Zinke formed, and in the U.S. And Emilio and I went and presented information about this council and the program in Mexico in an effort to and while at that meeting, we met the lead person from U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service who deals with that, who we're asking for help to try to reduce change the restrictions, the status of that species in Mexico. I mean, honestly, there are some states in Mexico that have more sheep than the states in desert bighorns in various states in the U.S. But yet we have no restrictions here, and they have to jump through a lot of hoops. So that's one of the issues. Very complicated, extremely complicated, but it's one of the issues that we are tackling right now.
So Clay, on that note, like I know I think it was '93, the Mexican government banned hunting, right? There was that 2-year hiatus until '95, yep. And we know Baja is still not open. So is that driven through CITES, or is it is CITES issues around the Mexican government, or I know it's complicated, but is there a brief explanation?
It's politics, really. There's a university that was strongly opposed to it and to hunting, and it's sadly that state still has many bighorn sheep. There's probably more poaching that occurs in that state than anywhere else because of hunting is not allowed, and so people sneak in and do various things. But no, it's politics, and these guys can add to that more than I can. But your dates are accurate. There were some experimental things done years ago, but we have been approached with people who are interested. I guess the last thing I wanted to mention, I told you about that conservation committee, but we have met with all of the wildlife directors that we did the World Mountain Ungulate Conference in Bozeman here about a year ago. And so we had members, we had the state wildlife directors from that these guys work with. Several of those guys were at that conference. So it gave us an opportunity to sit down with them and visit about some of the challenges that we face, or that these guys face, that we needed help with. So you'd asked earlier about, is the government, are they on this council? They really aren't, but we involve them when we need to. I guess I'll just say it that way. And so I think there's some opportunity there in the future as well.
Well, fantastic, Clay. Thanks. Well, Jacob, maybe let's just jump in with you for a minute here. Talk a little bit about your history in Sierra, El Alamo, and your family's history with bighorns and your guiding history and the ranch itself.
Thank you, Kyle. Well, before I start talking about Sierra El Alamo, there's a lot of background of family involved in the hunting business. Okay? So like Clay said before, my dad started doing the outfitting business just a hair before I born. So we're talking about 43 years ago. And from the same business and the same situation, he started seeing the opportunity to grow his book of species to hunt here in Sonora. In that time, he started doing the hunting business in just for doves, and then jump up to goose deer at the same time with a mule deer. So that becomes really popular now. Hunting those species here in the states of Sonora is like the dream for a lot of hunters in the deer. During that time, he started seeing that, and he started seeing that the business was good. So he opened. He think that he started raising exotic animals like Texas was doing in that time. But that was a good idea. So he started raising exotic animals like animals from Africa, playing game, those kind of animals. But at that time, he realized Texas was in front of this for 20 years, So we were out of the market and trying to sell a black book here for a double price that selling in Texas was it was out of the business, out of the market. So at that time he realized and changed the view. Hey, how about it we start raising the endemic animals that we have here in the state? So there was a couple mule deers in that ranch. We're talking about a ranch. At that time, it was just only 2,000 acres. So they decided to get to bigger the area, to get a bigger area, and they opened another big part of the ranch, and they fenced a total of 5,000 acres, and they introduced more deer, specifically specific mule deer in the ranch, and they start doing really well, and that was early 90s. At that time, also the federal government gave the opportunity to start raising sheep and start helping the population of the sheep. Back then, only the federal government used to hunt or do the hunts in different, especially Baja and some places here in Sonora. So there was just the population at that time was really low. We're talking about here in Sonora, probably no more than 1,000 animals. And we're talking about only 20 years ago. Okay. Now on this day, we have 10 times that. And I will explain you why. So we start raising sheep in a high fence. 5,000 acres. We start with that was funny. We start with animals from the zoo. We start with a couple ewes, a couple rams. After that, we start buying from Tiburon Island, just a couple sheep, and another from 2 different areas from mainland. So from 92 to the next 10 years, the sheep was doing okay. And then there was opportunity to buy more sheep from Tiburon. So we introduced a little bit more sheep, probably 40 animals back then. And since that time, and now we already produce more than 1,000 animals in that high fence. So a lot of those goes, we sell to another state like Chihuahua, Coahuila, Nuevo León. And we're talking about probably from, I was probably 15 years ago. So from 15 years or 10 years and now, we stopped selling sheep to other states, you know, because those states, they already have animals that buy from private projects like us. But right now, here in the state, there's 47 high fences that we produce sheep. So probably, well, not probably, we're talking about 6,000 animals in fence right now, okay? And the rest is in free range, in the different mountain range in the state. So, is when Sierra El Alamo show up, you know. For the last, we owned that property 20 years ago, but we didn't develop a conservation program back then. We were, that land was, here in the state of Sonora, we, one of the main resource jobs or what the is the cattle business. You know, cattle business here in Sonora is really popular, but that area of Sierra El Alamo is not the best condition to raise cows. Okay, was a community land, but they were in the mining business since the Spaniards, you know, a long time ago. So that there was sheep there. There's, I will try to say the name pedographics, like not drawing. It's they're drawing, but not with paint. It's with rocks, you know. So there's in the rocks right there, and since hundreds of years. Okay, so and there's sheep in those drawings. Okay, so there's been sheep in that mountain range for several years, but for other activities from the people, they push away and they kill a lot of the animals. You know? When we start develop this program, 2006, in November 2016, I mean, 4 years ago, the federal government gave us the rights to or the yes to start develop a program to release sheep in the area and help increase population, increase bloodline, and so the first herd of sheep that we released in that land, we released in middle of 2017. Okay, we start with 25 sheep. 60% of that was used, 40% was rams. There's a formula there that you need to keep it if you want to do it in the right way. And the animals that we release in that area came from our hyphens. Okay, and this kind of like system is developed now for different landowners, and now you hear more people releasing sheep in different areas, in different areas of mountain ranges here in the state. There's a goal to release 500 sheep in a period of 6 years. And so far there's been releasing close to 400 in different mountain ranges. Just in Sierra El Alamo, we already released 106 in 2 years and a half. Okay, our goal, our personal goal, is to release 200 sheep in 5 years or less. Okay, we want to finish there or end there probably not. They're doing really well. Of course, there's a lot of work to do. Before that, like Emilio said, we have the same situation. You know, water in the desert is the most precious naturals, okay, or the most precious thing that you're looking for, because there's no water, there's no way to success in this program. Especially animals that they've been drinking water in a high fence in water holes, you know, so or water places. So you need to give the water, and then they start looking for a natural way to obtain that water. And we're talking about a cactus, you know, any plant, you know, even there's no much water physical in the ground, there's a lot of moist every morning, you know, and they can have it from the plants, or even like I mentioned before, cactus is one of the most or main resources of water, you know. So this ranch is 80,000 acre ranch. It's a free range area. The good thing that we have in that area is, or that mountain range, we don't have neighbors that share the Sierra. We have neighbors on the flats, but the rams, they don't go there, you know. And so around those flats, there's agriculture ranches. Okay, around that ranch is this ranch is located in the northwest of Sonora. Okay, in the area close to Caborca. It's not far from the border, and it's not too far from the ocean. You know, we're talking about probably 20 miles from the ocean, and another 20 miles or 30 miles to the border. You know, so we're located in a really prime area. It's an isolated mountain range, and they have all the characteristics to the ram's success. Different, like Emilio was saying before, we don't have the problem with the goats. We don't have goats in this area. So diseases, there is not a big issue here. It's more issue poaching or keep the locals away, you know, because in this mountain range, even we don't have a cattle fence around the property, you know. So basically, it's an imaginary line between me and my neighbor, you know, and so it just keep this subdivided or divided by roads, you know. So we have roads all around the perimeter, and it's how we start working on that, you know. It's a lot of work, a lot of money, like Emilio say, you know. We don't have the support of state or federal government. We only have the agree of those people to start doing something for conservation, you know. So everything has to pay by your own pocket, or find organizations to help this kind of project, you know. And of course, you know, hunting is essential tool for us to give back something to the same land, you know. So yes, we hunt there, but just a couple of sheep too, to have resources, to have money to increase the population, you know, to bring more sheep, to develop water system, you know, to drill. Even it's a desert, there's water, you know, and we drill not too deep, you know, probably 2,000 feet. It's really shallow water, so superficial, you know, they call it. And so small projects to find a water tank and give gravity to places so that they can find a water hole, you know, and it's how we've been working from the north side to the south part of the land, you know. Just going around the property take you a lot of time, you know. We're talking about 75 miles in tough terrain. It takes you the whole day to go around the property. You know, I don't know if I'm doing the conversation on the way that you want to hear it, or if you have some questions, I can respond to that. You tell me about it.
I do have one for you, Jacob. So, you know, Mexico's a huge success story in terms of what's happened with bighorns over the last 30 years and other species as well. And I know Mexico in the late 1800s, 1894, enacted legislation to protect wildlife, but it really wasn't enforced. And I think it would, you know, sheep were extirpated in the 20s in Chihuahua, I think it was. So, you know, we've seen this massive success story. Is this all on the backs of private landowners and really using hunting as that catalyst? You know, what's driving that? It sounds to me like the government has that there's zero funding and zero support. So is there any government funding or any other organizations that are putting money into the resource to bring them back? Or is it strictly gentlemen like yourselves that care about the resource and using it through hunting to that as a catalyst to build it up? Or is there other opportunities as well, but beyond that?
Well, that's a good question. Here in Mexico, yes, of course, you can find probably another private companies that probably they have in his records or his things help, you know, in conservation. But those doors are really hard to knock, you know. So what we did in our case, we started looking for organizations such as Wall Street Foundation, you know, and we knocked doors, you know. Hey, we developed this. How you think there's a way to found this, you know, and they have grants. They have grants and they help all over the world. So we apply there and we apply to another sponsors, and that's the way that we're founding a little bit of what we're doing, you know. So they help us, and of course it has to be also money in your pocket, you know. It's something that you're doing for a reason, you know. So you develop this for your own reason, you know. At the end, it's private land, it's my land, but I'm doing something for the conservation of the species, you know. Like I said before, I don't have fences, you know. These sheep, they can travel from my mountain range to the next one, you know. And that's the purpose of this, you know. We want to start seeing another animals from other sierras came to all sierras, and animals from all sierras going that way. And that's the way that in some reason the genetic, they will start getting better, you know, and seeing more sheep, more newborns, better quality of horns, better trophies, you know, and of course patience and time is the most important, you know. They don't grow with horns when they're baby, you know. So you need a lot of years, you know. We're talking about 10, 11, 12 years to make good quality horns, you know. In that time, there's a lot of work to do. It's a lot of headaches, but a lot of satisfaction, you know.
Well,
I might add something to that, Kyle. And Jacob touched on it, but you know, it's the system in Mexico. I mean, it is what it is. It is on the backs of landowners, and which, you know, there are a lot of positive things about that. You know, you don't have the bureaucracies that you see in many of the U.S. states. I mean, those guys take care of their own business, but I think that's a critical point. The private landowners, to me, that is the most important factor for restoring and managing wildlife in Mexico. That is the most important factor is private landowners. And so I guess along those lines, these guys have generated thousands and thousands of dollars. Just a handful of these guys, probably over $10 million through auction tags at the Wild Sheep Foundation. And some of this money they're helping fund their own it funds their work. But in addition to that, some of the grants that through our grant and aid program that Jacob was talking about, these guys are actually funding each other's work. And so it's really a neat deal. So I can't tell you how proud I am to work with these guys. It's just for me, it's the most exciting stuff that's going on in North America right now. Just tremendous good wildlife work, and I'm just proud of them. I can't say enough good.
Well, one thing that came to mind when Jacob was talking there, Clay, was the reference to the free range and letting your sheep. They're your resource. You've let them go now. If you're not keeping your habitat up, those sheep aren't going to hang around. So there's a huge onus on the landowner there to make sure that the habitat is really, so you're providing a great environment for them. If you're not taking care of your land, you're not going to have sheep on there. They're just going to go to the neighbors or someone else's. So it's all about it's about the resource too, but the land and taking care of your land and making sure there's water and opportunity for them to thrive in that environment. Otherwise, they're going to take off. So.
You're exactly right. It's some of the habitat work these guys are doing are incredible. Not these guys. These guys, they were in it for the right reasons and had a clear understanding of where it needed to go and what conservation meant to the people of Mexico and how important it was. And not all did. I can tell you that some folks would call me and landowner would call me and I would say, well, you would benefit more if you took down your fence and started releasing sheep into the wild. And of course, these are sheep that were tough to acquire for those folks. And they would say, you want me to do what? Oh, open the gate and turn them loose. And it was a kind of a unique concept at the time. It was real different working with these guys. I mean, they clearly understood where it needed to go.
Fantastic. Clay, I'm just going to back up the bus a little bit, and Emilio, Jacob, Clay, any one of you guys can comment on this. Can you just give us an idea of what the wild sheep numbers have looked like, the desert bighorn sheep numbers have looked like in Mexico? Obviously the 1700s, they were prolific, and they're back today. But just talk us numbers, like what do they look like? I know they were extirpated in certain regions in the 20s, and the 60s were bad, and then there's been this growth. So what are we looking at numbers-wise? Historically?
Well, historically, that's tough to come by. There's been a little bit of work. Emilio referenced some of it, but it's one of the things that we're working on right now is to try to get a picture of where they occurred, and we believe that there's a mountain range near Emilio that we believe has bighorn sheep in them now. Then no one ever surveys, and so we're looking at doing some things there maybe in the future. Maybe conducting some surveys, but that's a really good question, but a tough one to answer as far as historic. It's easy to pick the ones that, Coahuila and Chihuahua where they were completely gone. But the others, it's a little bit tougher to come up with the numbers, and some of the even in the U.S. the numbers you see them range from thousands to 2 million plus. In North America, and even that's debatable. And so, but now, if you put all the work that these guys are doing together, if you combine all that, they're probably 14,000 plus sheep in Mexico now, and of course Sonora has a lot, but I mean the work that Coahuila between Cimex and La Palmosa, I mean those guys they've completely it was zero. They had no sheep whatsoever, and now they're thousands between the two. I think Emilio referenced 700, but I think Cemex is kind of up and down, but they're working towards the same thing and releasing animals into the wild and that sort of thing. So the historic questions are tough, but if you look at, and then that's not, a lot of those numbers don't include all the high fence stuff, the pen sheep that you hear about. And so some of the things that happened in the ejidos or villages, there are things like that where the numbers are not, I mean, there are folks that have sheep on 5-acre tracts, things like that. And it's, like I said, the fence part of it is, I tell you, when people ask me about what's going on down there, I always try to tell them that, look, we're trying to change the way people from north of the border think about Mexico, and we're trying to change the way Mexico thinks about conservation and restoring sheep. And so we're trying to meet somewhere in the middle of all that. And these guys, the leadership, that's what was always missing, and they came along and at the right time and did good things. But it's working. Numbers continue to climb.
That's fantastic. Emilio, if we could you just talk a little bit about the council and sort of what you guys are focusing on right now? I know Clay talked a little bit about the priorities, but is it the goat issue? Is it government engagement, getting the government on board? What's your big fish to fry right now for the council?
Okay, the council is looking for more of a Mexican issues, not a local issues. We might have some issues in Coahuila, different than Sonora, different than Chihuahua or Baja, and like Baja North is not hunting at all, it's closed. So we're focusing, and again, I think Clay be the best person to explain it, is on those issues that affect wildlife, and especially desert bighorns, like CITES is one of it. And another issue is the way they see wildlife management, how they see wildlife conservation, and how they see sustainable harvest. We still have a big group of people, I should put it that way, a big group that think that hunting is harmful, is bad for wildlife. They think that hunting is kind of a depredation of the populations. And we are trying to send a message and explain them how sustainable harvest is one of the best way to conserve, and that we need to harvest a little bit so we can put back the money. At least I can talk about La Palmosa, 100% of the money we get out of our tax, they go back to the project, 100%. And they don't see that. Some people, some group, again, non-hunting group. And we're working on a little video film that to try to explain how hunting save desert bighorns in Mexico. And that's a fact. And because populations were declining, and they were almost, extinct in Coahuila and Chihuahua and North Zacatecas, which is part of the Chihuahuan Desert. And populations in Sonora, they were pretty low. And thanks to hunters, American and Canadian hunters, that are willing to pay large amount of money for the privilege of harvesting one ram, that money goes to conservation. And that's the way we, the private owners, are able to to keep up with this project. Otherwise, only very, very few people in Mexico would be able to do it. We need the support, of course, of an organization like the Wild Sheep Foundation to be able to carry on with these big projects and to have the people interested in wildlife in Mexico and especially in desert bighorns. So one of the main projects is try to teach people in the federal government, even though they are not putting any money, but they do enforce the law. They do enforce and they do still run all the permits and tax and sometimes they think when they are issuing tax, they are killing the population of desert bighorns. Some of them, they even think that it's a bad thing to issue a tag. And we need to teach them, and we are doing it, how that's a sustainable harvest. And sustainable harvest means to take just a little bit of the whole resource so we can not hurt the production of the population, the recruitment, but to have an incentive on the owners. Here in Mexico, the tax goes to the owners. It's not drawings. We have zero. You cannot buy a tag by, like in the States in Canada, that you pay a little bit and you get in kind of a raffle or a drawing, and then you get a permit. Well, in Canada and United States, you might go to some of the public lands where they have this population. However, here in Mexico, the owners get which is a very big incentive. Right? We get the tax, landowner tax, and we're able to funnel some of this money into these projects. And also, as we are teaching ejidos, we're teaching some other landowners, trying to convince them in Coahuila, say, okay, take out your goats, take out your cattle, take care of the habitat. Habitat is the key. And of course, water and so many other issues. However, overgrazing is a big problem. Overgrazing with goats, you have twice the problem. First, overgrazing is the degradation of the habitat, but also disease. So we're working very much on and trying to send a message about ethical harvest, ethical hunting is one of the most important means of conservation. That's how we can do conservation investment and conservation programs.
Well, my hat's off to you, Emilio, for setting that example for your fellow landowners in Mexico and Jacob. And I know you guys aren't the only two, but you certainly are the leaders in the industry, and it's just an honor to see what you guys are doing, and we're so thankful for that. And then play the support you're giving there as well through the Wild Sheep Foundation and the great work they're doing. So just one more question on the resource, I guess, before I want to talk to you guys about what it's like to come and hunt on the ranch. I want to talk about that in a minute here, but before we go in that, you brought up a bunch of issues, Emilio. You talked about, the issue with goats and disease. You talked about overgrazing. We haven't talked much about predators or poaching. What is the biggest threat to wild sheep, to desert bighorns right now? Is it, I guess, probably the disease issue? What else is high on that list? Is poaching, predators? What else comes to mind there?
Okay, well, I guess it would be different. Sonora would be different. Chihuahua, Coahuila, Baja, and poaching can be a problem, like Jacobo, the Sierra Alamo in the ARTEE family. They own that, but they don't have, like he said, they don't have even cattle fences. So he might get some people poaching because he has so many neighbors, or they can just come in and try to poach. So it's different. I don't know exactly how the problem is over there. And then the predation, there are some other places where they have much more problem with the predation than others. Government, state government and federal government, they do issue some permits to, if you have, let's say, a mountain lion that is causing problems, you could or you can go and ask for a permit to try to control one individual animal. However, again, different places, different problems, and we have to deal with those issues in Coahuila and Chihuahua. Also a very success story, just like Coahuila. And they used to have desert bighorns, and then I don't know what what year they wipe out all the population, and like the Ballena family are bringing back these desert bighorns, also from Sonora. Pretty much everything came from Sonora for Coahuila and Chihuahua, either from mainland Sonora or from Tiburon or from both. And but again, those are more specific problems that different issues, and Jacobo can tell you much more. He did mention about poaching, and of course we have to have a lot of people just driving around every day and looking at night for spotlights and for some, how to say, headlights, that you see a vehicle that you shouldn't have any vehicles, trying to get it, and of course poaching. But again, that's we don't have any game wardens. I don't think the state of Coahuila, which is huge, probably has one game warden for the whole state. And I guarantee you, they don't have a pickup and they don't have any gas to put on. If they do use their own vehicles to move around, they don't have any gasoline to put on the truck. There's none, non-existent. Again, is on the owner's interest of keeping poaching out. And I bet it's the same thing for Sonora, in Chihuahua, in Baja. So you could ask Jacobo.
Yeah, I agree with Emilio. You know, I think, like he said, every state has its own issues, its different situations. Yeah, in our case, like Emilio said, not having a fence is a big issue, because anybody can trespass. But but constantly we have different people checking around. You know, every day, every next day. You know, we check for tracks, or even if we saw the people walking or trucks. So what we do is create a conscience in the people. You know, so we have a lot of signs all around the property, mentioning what is inside. You know, it's a program for conservation of the species of desert bighorn sheep. Is protected by the federal government, and is always watching by the private people. Even, yeah, but so creating a conscience in the people is the most important. You know, so every time that we saw people, that happened in the first year, you know, that happened in the first year. And now, like I said, that land was from we owned that land many years ago, but we didn't develop nothing because miners was taking care of the area. But several years ago, we're talking about 6 years ago, they stopped mining. There's gold in the property, but there's no profitable now to extract that gold, you know. So that they stopped those mines several years ago, and so basically was nobody lands, you know, because there's no fence. A lot of people go in and out on the property. So what we did is first put a lot of signs around our property and announcing what we're doing there, and be present, you know. So the first year, a lot of watching around, and people that we saw, a couple of times we kick out hunters, you know, poachers. Fortunately, not having a trophy, you know, so, or not having even a ewe or lamb, whatever, because they go for meat, you know. They're not a professional hunters. They go for meat, you know, and they don't care if it's a male, female, whatever it is, you know. And they look for deer, sheep, whatever. Now that it's okay, you know. It's now neighbors, people close to the neighbors, they know that area is protected, and they're working in a special project. And the neighbors know some of this day they will have the benefit of all this work, you know, because animals travel, you know, and if they think next mountain range that doesn't belong to us, they have a better condition to go, they will go and check the animals, you know. So that is one issue. The other, of course, like all the other ranches, predators. Any cat, bobcat or mountain lion is a big predator for us. Not the coyotes and cats. You know, cats hunts all the time, you know. But any small cat is a thing to watch, you know. So we try to we catch a lot of cats, you know. In the area, it wasn't a lot of predators because there was no water sources, and as soon we start putting more water, we benefit the whole chain, you know. So from the big mammal to the small mammal. So and all birds, and you notice right away. That was think of 1 year, and you start seeing more javelinas, bobcats, you know. And we have trail cameras in every single water sources. Right now we have 28 water sources in 80,000 acre ranch. Basically, all the north, middle, and part of the south, you know. So we need to keep working on that. But it is right now, most of the water that we develop is by truck, you know. So we need to work on that. It's not that it's going to happen next year, you know. It takes a lot of years. So water, as natural thing, is a predator, because if you don't have it, it's a big block that you cannot advance on your project, you know. That is one issue, a natural issue, but we can work on that. And the other one is just keep low the population of predators, you know, specifically cats, and of course creating conscious in society around you, neighbors, or that's the main source. If they don't help you, these kind of projects, they don't be success.
So if I buy that tag, Jacob, how's the hunting going to be? I mean, is it tough?
That will be great. That will be great hunt. You know, that will be a full experience. You know, there's a lot of history in that ranch. Seeing the petrographics or just climbing to the highest peak of the ranch, and know that like you mentioned before, that priest Eusebio Kino, that he was educating and teaching the religion in the 1700s. You know, one day he went up there and see that there was more land in the other side of the ocean, and this Baja, you know, so he saw the peninsula of Baja from there, and he moved to Baja from that way, you know, and so that's the route that he take and start teaching and building missions in all over, and then he went to California and all the way to San Francisco, you know, so that kind of history you can find in that land, you know. It's not just going hunting and kill something. It's the whole memory, the whole experience, you know. There's a lot of things in the back of hunt to travel and visit a new place, you know, like other places, you know. Going Texas is not just going Texas, you know. You need to visit El Alamo, you know, for example. You know.
So, gentlemen, I'd like to jump into that a little bit now. We're just going to wrap up here shortly, but let's talk about, so I guess I'll just back up. 5 years ago, Emilio, you generously donated a hunt through the Wild Sheep Society of BC, and Darren Epp won that through our raffle. We run a desert bighorn through our wild sheep raffles, and Darren won it and came and hunted with you guys and killed a beautiful 190-inch bighorn. So if somebody's coming to hunt with you guys, what can they expect? What does it look like? Is it all spot and stock? Are they going to be driving around in a vehicle? Is it going to be on horseback? What does it look like to come and hunt with you guys?
Okay, with us, we do use from the house, from the lodge to the edge of the mountain. We use a vehicle because we might be going far away, but 100% of the hunt will be on foot, because the valley where the lodge is about 4,000 feet above sea level, and the highest elevations is 8,500. So it's way high, and we don't have roads to drive in the mountain. So they usually get breakfast or light breakfast, because so many people don't want to eat at 6:15 in the morning, 6:30, and then they drive to the edge of the mountain and start hiking. And they have taquitos and tamales about at 9 in the morning, and then they have again lunch probably at noon. And they might take, if it's a hot day, they might take a rest. There's not many shades, because the Chihuahuan Desert is not like the Sonoran Desert. We don't have any trees. It's a much harsh environment, and much lower. And I can tell you about West Texas. Same thing, exactly the same. It's the same Chihuahuan Desert. And then they come back at night. However, we do have, for each hunter goes with a main guide and another guide that helps carry water, and then either Emilio, mainly Emilio, my son, is going to be in the hunt, or either Rene or Rafa, some other guy from the ranch that speaks English. So we won't have any issues with the language barrier. And we have another two guides that they are scouting. While they're up in the mountains, they are out scouting and seeing and just always looking for different places, different ramps, different canyons. And again, it's how you say, spot and stock, because unless they see an animal way late in the afternoon, 5:30, then they will leave it alone probably, and try to make a stock the following day. Sometimes they come back and they don't see him again, or they might see him. You know how hunting is. However, it's very tough, very tough hunting. You must have some good health and how you say, capacity of climbing, because it's going to be a very tough. Food is great back at the lodge, and that's how we conduct hunts. They are very tough.
It's exciting, Emilio. Now, do you guys see a lot of rams when you're out? There's a lot of animals. I would imagine with 600 animals on the property now, that's 600 to 700. I'm sure you see a lot of animals a lot of sheep when you're out hunting.
Yes, of course. You see, like the raffle you mentioned from British Columbia, that he hunted a huge, one of the biggest ones we take at the ranch, and he was one before last of the season, and we never saw that ram before. He probably was living somewhere and came in, probably some in heat or whatever, and they never saw. So you never know what to see. And some days, like you just said, you see a lot of animals, younger rams, one or two good ones. However, it's not a guaranteed thing. Sometimes you only see young rams, but it happened too that you see 3, 4, 5 shuttleable rams. And some people are looking for the largest, but some, and I should say probably most, are looking for the oldest. They, of course, what they wish to have is the oldest ram with the largest sons, of course. However, many of them, they say, I settle for the oldest, and if we can shoot a 12, at 11, 12, that would be great. And sometimes they pass a 9-year-old, 8-year-old younger ram that might score a little bit higher. And they say, no, let's go back for the other one, the one we saw first, the very old one. And so all depends of the hunter. Usually we get great hunters too.
That's fantastic. Do you guys have any hunts available this winter, Emilio? You guys sold out? I think you were sold out for a few years, weren't you?
Yeah, we're sold out for this. And of course, we have some changes because of the COVID-19. I believe a couple, 1 or 2 move for next year, and that move a little bit how everything was set, and probably one from the next year is going to come on his place, because we already have the tag and we are conducting hunts. We are doing the COVID, test. We have medical staff that go there, and we are doing our test for all the people that work at the ranch, the guides and people at the kitchen and the bedroom that take care of the guests. They all have to have the COVID test. So we're ready for this season, and we're very exciting, and we're only 2 weeks away from the first hunter. As a matter of fact, the guy who bought the auction tag at the Wild Sheep Foundation, he's coming in a couple of weeks.
Fantastic.
I just came from before this. We started this. I just came driving a little bit faster than usually to get here to be here at 2 Central Time.
Well, we certainly appreciate you making the call, Emilio, and I just want to say personally, from all the conservation support you've given the community, you've been such a generous supporter of the Wild Sheep Foundation. you know, your family, what you guys have done to support the foundation, and well beyond that in terms of what you've done with your leadership of being on our board of directors and heading up the council in Mexico there. So, you know, there's just not enough thanks to go around for all you've done and all the support La Palmosa's given to wild sheep conservation. So you're definitely somebody I respect and look up to, and very thankful for all you've done, for sure. Thank you.
Yeah, we thank you very much, and we do believe in the Wild Sheep Foundation. He's doing a great job, and we'll continue to support as much as possible. Thank you very much for inviting me and having this opportunity to speak a little bit. I wish my English was better. However, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
No, it's fantastic.
Always tell Emilio his English is better than mine, so
Yeah,
pretty well.
his English is fantastic. Absolutely. Now the Wild Sheep Society of BC this year, this is the first time we're working with Sierra El Alamo, and I want to thank you, Jacob, for the support you've loaned us and working with us. I know you worked with Oregon last year, and we're really excited to partner with you through our Wild Sheep raffle this year. We're going to be doing a raffle for a desert bighorn for a hunt on Sierra El Alamo. So, Jacob, if you don't mind, could you just talk a little bit about you know, what somebody can expect on a hunt with you guys and what that looks like?
Oh yeah, of course. It's not a big difference between how they do it in Coahuila. You know, we as private land, we have a lodge to stay. So the hunter, he will be out for a day. You know, so he will carry a day pack. No, you don't need more than that. So we go early morning, and we have a staff of between 8 and 15 people in the ranch. And I will say a good 10 of people, you know, 10 people will go out and split in different directions, you know, for at least for the first day, second day, and to cover most of the land that we can, you know, and so we're looking for the biggest ram. And that's curious because something happened to us last season. After 5 hunters, the last hunter take the biggest ram, you know, in the season. So he killed a 182 ram. That was beautiful ram, and they're there, you know. And sometimes you spend a lot of time looking for the biggest one and show at the last day and the last hunt, you know. So we don't have 700 sheep population, but we have over 200 in the area, no? 100 sheep that we already introduced, and plus the newborns, and also probably 250 animals in the area, an 80,000 acre ranch with big mountain ranges. Here, different Coahuila and Sonora, basically we're on sea level, you know, and our biggest mountain range, the highest peak is 3,000 feet elevation. So, and we have two sierras that are connected in the middle of the sierra, that they are the same altitude. So what we do, we go in the car and trying to cover the most land that we can in different points of the ranch, and start glassing from there, you know. A lot of binoculars, a lot of stuff, you know. It's hard terrain, and you want to do it in once or 2 climbs, you know, because it demands a lot of physical that land, you know. So it's easy to walk, you know, in the main that you're not climbing, but step by step, you know. But you need time to do it, you know. Climbing at 3,000 feet elevation from sea level is not that easy. It'll take you a couple hours. But a lot of ramps, they're not in that high, you know. I would say middle, 3/4 of the mountain range, you know. There's where they live. They like to live. There's more vegetation. at that high, that in a 3,000 feet elevation. So we go out and we split different groups, normally 2-3 different groups. There's always me or my brother guiding, or could be both of us. And also I have, so we're a family of 4 brothers, and all of us we like to hunt, okay, and guide, and we know how to do it, and we've been doing this for many years. And but basically my brother George and I, we take care of the hunter, and there's also people helping us, more spotters or buckers. What we want you is to have the whole experience, but also want to have 100% success of this, and I want you to do it soon we can, because I don't want you going up and down and in mountains for 10 days, probably after 5 days you will say I'm done, and I want you go home with a good quality trophy and that empty hands, the empty hands because I don't want to break the hunter, so we take a lot of care of the hunter, so a lot of hydration, a lot of water, Gatorade, or another vitamins or electrolytes. We always drink, during the day. Of course, we have our early morning breakfast, and like Emilio said, it's too early. We just go and have a lunch during the morning, and then it is getting too late. We go back to the ranch and relax and be ready for the next day. So we move by vehicles, and especially trucks, and some part of the day we jump out of the trucks, and we climb small hills and start cover more land from different elevations to locate the around the hill line, So we take you there, and the final decision is on the hunter. If he like it, we go. If not, we pass and look for another one.
Fantastic. Well, it's exciting. I know you guys sold out for this winter as well, or how's that looking, Jacob? If somebody wanted to go hunt desert bighorns, could they get a spot with you this year?
Well, yes, we have one opening, but like Emilio saying, a lot of I was expecting to cancellations, and but with all this COVID, but it's still on. There's only one. There was only one of the hunters that by one of the auctions, World Chip Foundation auction, he decided to donate his hunt to his dad. So his dad is coming, so he switched, For us, it's not a problem. We just communicate that to World Chip Foundation. He agreed to it, and so we're going to receive people from Poaching Foundation, Dallas Safari Club, Oregon chapter, a lot of organizations that are focused on us. And basically, it's how we work. We work through organizations. So I think it's better that way. And of course, we have direct clients that they book direct with us, but we're open to work with organizations as World Chip Society in BC for next year.
Oh, we appreciate it, and all the all the donations and all the support you've given these other organizations too. I know you've worked with the foundation and working even closer in the next coming years here with us, and also Dallas Safari Club. And so thank you on behalf of our conservation community. Thank you for all you do as well, and to the RT family, Jacob. So we appreciate that.
For giving the opportunity to speak and know more about these projects, what happened in Mexico, what we're concerned about it, and this kind of like project is important for everybody. It's not a thing that is just doing for one reason. It's a legacy. We're putting sheep in the mountain, our goal is to keep it there, to keep more sheep and restore the whole population of the desert bighorn sheep. Speaking on the name of my family, thank you everybody, and to give you the microphone a little bit to explain what we're doing here and talk about it.
It's an inspiration, and it's funny. We got together here today and talked for an hour and a half or almost 2 hours, and it was 99% about conservation. And you guys are businessmen, and but here we are talking about the resource and the conservation, the work that's being done, and so fantastic conservation leadership, both you and what the council's doing there in Mexico, and just an honor to see that and to see such a success story. It's just fantastic. So thank you both for all you do there. And Steve, do you have any questions? Anything before we wrap up here?
No, it's just been fascinating to hear firsthand some success stories about how hunting actually gives back from people that do it and have seen it. You hear about all the rhetoric online and people say how it happens, but to hear firsthand the stories, it's been pretty awesome, and I appreciate your time. Fantastic.
Clay, I want to thank you for just for all your time today, and just your passion and your leadership in the wild sheep community. I know every time we get together, you say, Kyle, you got to come to Mexico with me and see this. You can't understand it. You have to see it. And I'm going to take you up on that one day, and I want to go down there and I want to experience it, because your passion is just so infectious, and the work that you're doing through the foundation, particularly in Mexico, but with just Bighorns at large, it's just an inspiration, and I'm very thankful for that.
I appreciate that. I work for a good outfit, and a great board of directors that believe in true conservation. So I'm thankful for that.
Fantastic. Well, we've taken enough of your time, gentlemen, on this Thursday afternoon. I want to thank all of you. Thank you, Emilio. Thank you, Jacob. Thank you, Clay, and of course, Steve, for being here. So it's been a pleasure. I want to wish you guys a fantastic fall and a great hunting season this winter, gentlemen, and look forward to catching up again soon.
Sounds good. See you guys.
Thank you very much, Kyle, and you're very welcome to come to La Palmosa.
I want to come and check it out for sure, Emilio, and I will. I'll be down there one day for sure, no question. So thank you.
Good.
Thank you.
See you guys.
Thanks, guys. Goodbye.
Bye.